Hey everyone, it's Derek Weeks. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at the Linux Foundation, and we're trying something new here. We're going live every couple of weeks with some updates across the Linux Foundation so you can learn a little more about what we're doing within our communities and hopefully jump in and participate in some of them. So first thing that I'd like to start off with is an announcement about our 10th annual jobs report. That went live back at the end of June when we were at Open Source Summit in Austin. That particular report has been really well received, but here's why it's important for you. If you're hiring open source talent, or you want to be hired, or just know how valuable your skills are out there as someone with open source talent, have a look at this report. We dive into what hiring managers are looking for in terms of open source talent. 93% of them are saying it's difficult to find. Of course, if you're hanging out with the Linux Foundation and our communities here, not very hard to find when you're involved in one of our projects or communities. But they're also saying that they're planning to increase the number of hires they have that have open source talent within their background. Also, not surprisingly, 73% of the people that took the survey said that they could easily change jobs with the open source talent that they had because it was in such high demand. So if they were looking at a new job opportunity, it would be pretty easy to find one. But in order to set you up for the right job opportunity, I'll also let you know that right now within the Linux Foundation training operations, we have a promotion going on. That is, if you purchase the certification course for one of our trainings, you actually get the training course behind that certification for free. So it's kind of a buy one, get one offer that's going on right now. There is a promo code for that called Back to School, number 2, and the school. So Back to School, we'll put that in the chats below. But if you just go to our Linux Foundation training pages, you'll be able to get a hold of that. Also, some new research that we just published yesterday out of our Linux Foundation research office in conjunction with some of the work we've done with Linux Foundation AI and Data, as well as the To-Do group, is a deep dive into the open source program office. You can easily find this report because it's highlighted today on the Linux Foundation website. Just go to our homepage and you'll see a banner for that where you can click through. You don't have to register for any of our research. It's always free. It's always ungated. So you just go there, click on the reports, download them, and read through that. But this is an important report that's come out because if you're looking to start an open source program office and you're wondering how to set one of those up, if you're currently running an open source program office or working within one and you want to better understand the different maturity levels associated with open source program offices and how they evolve within organizations there, we've documented those maturity levels for you to perhaps put together your strategic roadmap for your open source program office. And then we also talk about how to staff the open source program office, what people do within an open source program office, etc. So thanks to all the work done by the To-Do group. Chris Anichek wrote the foreword of it. Our own Dr. Ibrahim Haddad did a lot of the writing within this report as well. So definitely check that out. And other news across our community. If you're in the data warehouse or machine learning community and you're looking at data lake houses that you want to build for any of those environments, our Delta Lake project just announced their 2.0 release. Now, lots of things in that, but one of the most important things that's come out is that they've open sourced all the APIs related to Delta Lake in that newest version. So definitely check that out. My friend Denny and Carly and their team host office hours about every other week within their community. They have a couple hundred people attending each week asking questions about Data Lake that they field live within those office hours. So definitely check out our Data Lake community if you're interested in that. Now, across the Linux Foundation, we're always happy to get people together because that's how we learn best within our communities. And so one of the things I want to tell you about is some of the events that we have coming up. A lot of, if not all of our events are hosted virtually, as well as there are in-person options if they happen to be in your community or you have the ability to travel to them. So I'll cover 3 at-large conferences at first. The first is the R Medicine Conference. That's actually going on today and tomorrow. That is for R-based tools that are being used to improve clinical research and practices there. We have a couple of keynotes going on, one from the FDA's Frank Harrell, and the other is our studio's JJ Allaire are going to be keynoting at that particular event. Also in the DPDK space, the data plane dev kit. This is for anyone looking to accelerate packet processing workloads across various CPUs. Dive into our DPDK user space summit. It's coming up the 6th through the 8th of September. They will have a live version in Arcachon, France, but there's also a virtual component to that. We have Usama Arif from TikTok, who's going to be keynoting there. We also have Bruce Richardson from Intel and Maxine Copeland from Red Hat, who are going to be keynoting at that event. Now, if you're looking to participate or learn more about open source software tied to safety critical applications, whether that might be in aerospace, healthcare, the medical fields, automotive, etc., check out our ELISA Summit that is coming up also in the beginning of September, September 7th and 8th. We have a variety of speakers there, including our very own Kate Stewart from the Linux Foundation. We have Philip Amon, who's coming in from Robert Bosch. And we have Gabriella Paolini from Red Hat, who will also be keynoting at that event. So check out ELISA Summit, September 7th through 8th. Now, the following week in September, we have 2 other big events going on. Those are events, if you happen to be going to Dublin, Ireland in mid-September, you will see me there. First off, we're going to have the Hyperledger Global Forum that is going on in Dublin from September 12th through 14th. We're going to have over 100 speakers from talking about enterprise-grade blockchain environments and the latest updates of what's happening there across the Hyperledger community. We have keynotes from Coinbase, Accenture, and DTCC on the agenda there. So definitely check that out on our events page. See if it's of interest to you and register to either attend in person or virtually. Then we also have, and I'm really excited about this, our Open Source Summit Europe is going on in mid-September, also in Dublin, just following the Hyperledger Summit there. I will be there. We have some huge announcements coming out from the Linux Foundation at that time. Now, I'm not going to reveal those ahead of time. We have to wait until mid-September, but very exciting. You definitely want to register so that you can tune in virtually or just plan on coming to Dublin in mid-September, joining me and a couple thousand other people that will be at that summit with us. We have some keynotes at that event which have been announced. Hillary Carter, who runs LF Research that we were talking about earlier, is going to be on stage talking about some of our European survey findings and her World of Open Source survey that they did back in, I think, the May-June timeframe. We're going to publish the results from that coming up, so definitely stay tuned for those. And we also have some keynotes from Cardano as well as Huawei coming up at that event. So lots of awesome events. I think in total with events and meetups around the world in our communities, we host something like 29,000 different events, from really small local meetups to big international conferences as well. So definitely check those out. So each week we have updates on what's happening in training, what's happening in research, what's happening just across some of our projects for news about the Linux Foundation that you might not have been aware of, or maybe you only follow one or two of our projects. So we're hoping to just expand interest and information about what's happening in these various projects. Again, with each episode, we're going to take some live questions from the audience. So a couple of you are tuned in right now. If you have questions, definitely let us know, and our producers will get those questions to me. But I'll try and answer a couple of the ones that we have coming in already. So first one coming in, question, this is something I spend a lot of time on, but they're wondering about what is LFX. So we have a portal, a collaboration portal that we've created. It's a purpose-built portal for our member companies at the Linux Foundation, the developers and leaders and maintainers of open source projects that we work with that have access to this portal to enable them to better manage their open source communities and open source projects through that portal. Kind of think of it as the LinkedIn of open source, if you will. One, to update your information about how you're contributing to open source, what kind of certifications you've gotten, what kind of events you've gotten. But also, if you're running an open source project, we have some tools built into this portal that are incredibly helpful. A lot of project leaders are out there using kind of a combination of 10, 20, 30 different tools to manage their open source projects. We've actually consolidated a lot of those capabilities inside the LFX collaboration portal, allowing you to better manage your open source projects as part of that. And then, as we talked about earlier with open source program offices, if you're looking to get a better sense of what your employees are doing, contributing to various open source projects at the Linux Foundation, how many have attended certain conferences, how many spoke at conferences, how many have taken advantage of Linux Foundation training, and those kinds of things, you can easily find that in the organizational dashboard within LFX. Now, if you're not familiar with LFX and how to access it, it's pretty easy. Just go to the Linux Foundation homepage. You'll see a Create Community Profile button or Sign In button there. Just follow that path and you'll go right into the individual dashboard for LFX, and then you can check out all the other features across that, whether it's Project Control Center, insights that tell you what's happening with a specific project, the security capabilities, to tell you if there are any known security vulnerabilities against project components or packages the projects might rely on. Those types of things are available there. Someone asked, looks like, what project do you find interesting that you really like to talk about? So one of them is getting a huge amount of attention this year is the security mobilization plan that has come out from OpenSSF. That came out back in May. We have, I think, 8 active. There might even be more active working groups within OpenSSF working on this mobilization plan. But a key part of this is, how do we bring more secure coding practices to the open source community? How do we get training out there? How do we protect the repositories that are out there that we get open source components and packages from? How do we protect our build chains and tool chains that we have? And how do we just learn more and improve the education on what's happening within software supply chains? We also touch on software bill of materials in that mobilization plan. So if you haven't read it, definitely go to the openssf.org website. You'll find the mobilization plan, I believe, on their homepage, and you can download it and then jump into one of the working groups if you'd like to contribute there. The last question that it looks like I have time for, it says, what is on the horizon at the Linux Foundation that I'm excited about? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, Open Source Summit in Dublin. We have some really big Linux Foundation announcements that will be happening there, so definitely tune in. The other thing that I've really had an interest in is what's happening with the to-do group at the Linux Foundation. I mentioned this before. They just came out with their deep dive report. But for those of you that are running or trying to establish an open source program office, they have a huge amount of work that they've done to document best practices and how-tos. If you just Google To-Do Group, TODO Group, and you'll be able to go onto their site, see all the best practices guides that they have. I think they're probably 10 or 12, maybe even more now, that are available there. So go in, check it out. Take advantage of the resources that we have there. They're all free and developed by our open source community members, and we hope you find them helpful. So that's it for our first live update within the community, but certainly tune back in a couple of weeks. I'll be back again with more news and updates across our environment. Thanks. Bye.